Hello, DevOps friends. Welcome to Full Stack. No, it's not Full Stack Live. It has been for years, but now it's Monospace Mentor. How's it going? It's Tuesday, and I did actually manage to start a stream on time at the regularly scheduled time. That's amazing. So yeah, today I'm going to do a co-working stream where I do work and I invite you to do your own work. You can actually use the to-do command to add tasks to our task list that I'm going to get on screen in a minute. And you can use the !done command to check them off when they're done. And the !suite command gives you all the details that you need to know if you are not familiar with how my co-working streams work. The way they do work is actually I work on my stuff in silence for 45 minutes, then we'll have a 15-minute break, and during that time I'll switch on the microphone and we can have a conversation. But we can also have a conversation in chat during work time, so don't hold back. If there's anything that you'd like to ask, or if there's anything you are eager to share, please do so in chat. And I think this is going to be a productive afternoon or morning, if that's your time, or evening, who knows. Wherever you are very welcome. And yeah, so I'm streaming today from a slightly new setup. Visually, nothing has changed. Hopefully, well, a little bit has changed because I had to switch how I install OBS. And I did actually write a blog post about it yesterday. So the thing is, for the past year or so, I've been using a distro box, which is a container-based way to deploy applications for deploying OBS. And the uBlue project provided a very nice OBS container image that came with OBS pre-installed on an Ubuntu base with lots of plugins installed as well, so that made things very convenient. However, with everything switching to Wayland, and in particular Fedora 41 dropping Xorg support completely, I was basically forced to switch to Wayland. It works quite nicely even on my NVIDIA card, but the OBS container image didn't work 100% while OBS did start. It apparently didn't use the NVIDIA card for encoding anymore, so OBS ran at 70–80% CPU load on a 32-thread CPU. I'm running a Ryzen 9 here, and it didn't even reach 30 FPS. So things didn't look great, and I was actually so close to getting myself an AMD Radeon-based GPU. However, then I remembered, oh wait, there's a different way to install OBS, and that is simply installing OBS as a Flatpak. I did so. I imported all my settings from the container-based installation, and the only thing basically that's changed is that for the Flatpak-based installation, only very few OBS plugins are available and working. So there have been a few slight cosmetic downgrades to be made, but everything else should work nicely, and this stream is going to be a good test for that. There is going to be the NeoVimConf later in about an hour. It's going to start, and I might actually switch to the live stream. We might do some do a watch party if I get far enough into my own stuff. That being said, let's get cracking, and I will switch over to the work scene here and start the Pomodoro counter. I'll add my tasks to the task list and invite you to do the same, and we'll talk in 45 minutes time, and then we'll decide if we are going to switch to NeoVimConf or if I'll simply have it running in the background while I continue doing my work. All right then, have fun. and see you on the other side. All right, first Pomodoro down. It might actually be the first and last, actually. I'll have to make a decision there how I'm going to continue for today, because there are two things on my mind. First of all, the NeoVimConf stream over at the Primogen is going to start soon, and I think I'd like to watch that. I could do a watch party stream here, and we could watch it together and share what we think about things. On the other hand, I also want to do a run, and the weather today has been completely awful. It has been raining and raining. It has been pouring down, and it's also pretty chill outside. I'm pretty sure we are just a little bit above freezing. Yeah, it says 4 degrees. Feels like -2, so yeah. It's definitely around freezing. So now that it stopped raining, I do consider getting a run in as quickly as possible so it's done. And then have a hot shower and probably resume watching NeoVimConf. Full example says, sounds like Norway. Oh yeah. So Puffin says 21 degrees and drizzle. Well, I would take your weather anytime. 21 degrees and a little bit of drizzle, that sounds still nice. So Curtis, not happy if this is going to get cut short. All right, so yeah, we'll have to see how we do things here. I'm a little bit torn myself. But let's first check off my latest task, because I did actually update my Now page on my personal blog, for which I can also share the URL with you. That's here. That's my personal blog, as opposed to my more professional one over at monospacementor.com. Oh, you got dogs? Yeah, get them out there. They'll have a lot of fun, I'm sure. 15 degrees with where Soul Cuddle lives. Drizzly as well, yeah. I mean, as long as it's a little bit on the warmer side, I can take drizzle anytime. I'll just wear a raincoat. But if it's accompanied by temperatures that low, it's really awful. And I'd rather stay in bed. Especially seeing that parts of my family are also staying in bed because they have the cold. Oh, that's another thing. I'll have to make pizza later as well. And then I'll have 2 webinars on my calendar for the evening. So everything is a little bit crowded today. I might actually have to sacrifice stream time simply to get things fit in. Now let me see. Definitely be able to check off this here and this here. Okay, exercise is still on there, but I can check off this task. Yeah, so far, so productive. Such is life, says Balthazar. You're perfectly right. Good morning, by the way. How are you doing? So yeah, but there's still a few minutes until NeoVimConf even starts, so let's keep chatting. And do I have a little bit of tea left? Yeah, I do. Congrats on finishing your task, Sir Kate. Oh, Balthazar! Happy birthday, dude! That's amazing. I hope you'll get celebrated. Enjoy the day. So kind of says, if I had been here earlier, I'd be in sync with breaks maybe next time. Oh, you're running your own timer then? Yeah, I'll be back on Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock Irish time, which is 1 UTC. Hopefully, at least. Why am I? Oh, I'm sorry. Why am I getting tired? I finally had a good night's sleep last night. Thing is, I realized yesterday night that it's probably our mattress that is interfering with my sleep. At least it's part of the issue. And that basically led to a chain of events that cost me the rest of the night. So I really had a bad night the day before, but when I got to bed last night, I said, okay, I'm not on call anymore, so I won't have any interruptions from the outside, at least, probably. So I've decided to have a good night's sleep, and guess what? This morning I got up and neither my watch nor my other sleep app showed any restlessness or anything like that. Mindset oftentimes seems to be really, really important when it comes to these things. I simply decided to have a good night's sleep, and it actually worked out. We'll try it again this time later today, so I'll keep you posted on my self-programming there. But yeah, so it's probably for the same reason as Fuller said, it's getting dark here as well. I guess in Norway it's even getting darker because you're ahead of Ireland in terms of time. But yeah, I've started taking vitamin D pills every day just to keep the juices flowing. So kind of asks, you do a regular schedule then? Well, I claim to do so. So my regularly scheduled stream times are Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. UTC for either live coding streams or co-working streams like this one. And on Fridays, that's my most regular streaming slot, I think, at 1 p.m. UTC as well. I'll do my office hour where I simply sit here and ask questions from the audience. So, yeah, those are my streaming times. And for this week, I resolved to make an extra effort to get these streams online. So far, it's worked out, as you can see. We'll see how I'll fare on Thursday and Friday, but fingers crossed. I'm not happy with how irregular my regular schedule has become either. So, yeah. Now we're getting nearer to stream time for NeoVimConf, I think, if they got their time zones right. For Snobble, that's great! 13 extra bloggers for your Advent event. tell us more about it. I mean, I know what you mean, but share the link to your repository and the website, and let everyone know what you're doing there, because it's really interesting. And I'm so happy that you got so much resonance from people. It's amazing. So Kata says, yeah, the holidays inject a lot of chaos into schedule also, maybe in the new year. Yeah, it's now that holiday season is coming up, that is also certainly something that will throw a wrench, not a wench. I would like that, having a wench thrown into my stuff, but yeah, I rather meant a wrench. Oh my god. Exactly, for Snobble, because it's definitely a niche topic. So getting 13 people to complement your own efforts, I think that's pretty nice. Uh-huh. Looks like Primogen is getting ready. I'd say let's look into NeoVimConf a little bit and see how things get going. So let me get this full screen here, and then we'll simply switch to the game setting, I think. There we go. No sound so far, but that's, I think, not on my side because chat seems to have the same problem. So let's see.
That's what I was saying.
Are we in?
It's just off.
Awesome. Here we go.
It's off.
TJ has told you like 4 times your devices have been off
Maybe
all
it was because
morning.
I lost my voice.
Thank
Okay,
you.
yes. We have audio now.
I know, I can tell Nightshade dudes.
There, that's what we look like right now.
So Chris says, I so need to get my blog going again. Got trapped in that need to redo my blog system trap. Oh, how I can relate. And Crash System says it's a real greybeard. Yes, yes, yes. I'll admit I'm a real greybeard. No artificial coloring involved in any way. Welcome, Crash Systems.
I should probably ask if
YouTube still has no audio?
We're starting to watch the NeoVimConf stream over at the Primogen.
It's literally not possible because we're sending things up to Cloudflare, then from Cloudflare to Twitch and YouTube.
Are they that delayed?
Maybe they're just that delayed. They're delayed. Is everybody excited for Twitch? YouTube is dead. YouTube is not.
It's spinning right now. Dax, is something going wrong with YouTube?
Checking. Hold. We are winning. Yeah.
So
man.
Kara is asking, what's
Oh, I
this
think we're back.
Advent thing? Sounds interesting. Scroll a little
we're
bit up
looking
in chat. They left the
Maybe.
link
I don't know.
to the GitHub repository.
I actually don't know how to check.
I see you on YouTube. You know, I'm on the thing. It's just buffering right now, though.
Yeah, I get a buffering window. Yeah.
This is probably the wrong time to ask this, but how long should I aim for? As far
We
as
can talk for as long.
There's a
Yeah,
NeoVim.
you get it. You
Icon.
Get to do whatever you want to do.
This happened yesterday at the event too.
I think we are on the right channel,
Is that what happened when it worked?
even though
I didn't do anything.
title says Programmer's Family Feud.
Because all I did was open YouTube portal and click go live.
Yeah, I did that. It's live.
Oh, okay.
It's live. I'm holding. Hold.
Mr. Ajan, use your great
But wait 3 minutes if it's not there. I'll
Kinesis
Maybe
keyboard
Twitch.
to change the title.
Stream dead. Oh my gosh. Stall. Stall.
Stall. Oh, wait.
I wonder what switches he got in there, because they really sound nice, almost Topro-like.
So, YouTube. Like, great show last night. Dude, last night was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I can't believe this is all work. Yeah, TJ's voice is actually gone. He went in there without a voice and left with definitely nothing at this point. And so we're kind of getting started. It looks like YouTube. I don't know if we can fix YouTube.
Homeless man got kicked out. Sorry, Rusty.
His
Yeah,
voice
Homeless
is
Man is
actually
gone
destroyed. Okay.
We send him back to his real home.
Okay, I'm gonna restart this.
Fortunately,
We're restarting the YouTube one.
Teach doesn't
Dax is
do
again working
doesn't have
towards
to
the
do a
prime
talk.
animal. Yeah, I am.
That's,
So it's going to start with the state of
I
NeoVim,
don't even know the lore.
They don't even know the lore.
and Unicode and
That's
emoji in NeoVim.
That's not TJ, though.
Interesting that
that's
this
Justin.
warrants a
This is
whole
TJ.
talk.
What's wrong with your voice?
Nice.
Life.
Lightning Talk bring NeoVim-like configuration to the browser with Qt browser. That's an interesting thing.
8 hours of getting ready for
Text editing with Minion-Vim.
Now we're here.
Yeah.
Wrapping your favorite CLI
Okay,
in
we're back
NeoVim.
up. We're back. We are.
I wonder what that
we
is going to
so
be
back.
about.
We are so back.
All right.
All right, so I think that it's pretty much your stage.
Well, we
Justin?
should say what we're doing today,
Yeah.
which is NeoVimConf.
Indrak,
We should probably do
hey,
an
how
intro.
you doing?
You guys want to do an intro?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
Hey, everybody.
Stall.
Oh, no. Pass me the other one, ABD.
Cross System says, I feel like I should probably use NeoVim for the street cred, but VS Code is just so easy. I do appreciate the pragmatism.
All right, hey,
Definitely.
welcome to NeoVimConf. What is this, the 5th conf?
Yeah.
This
Yes.
is number 5. This is number
Yeah.
5.
Hey, ABD, come over here and say hi.
Yeah, ABD, you got to come over here.
We are very excited. We got a great line of guests today. Unfortunately, neither of us have to talk very much. Instead, we've gathered the best talks that we can find out on the internet.
The best. There's none better.
Talks like this before.
Yeah.
They've never seen talks like this before. Actually, they're gonna think it's so crazy.
And he's
And
currently
Adam
playing a
is
video.
so-
Adam is currently playing a video.
And it's burrito with smile command. Spoilers, dude. Spoilers.
It's still playing.
No, it's not.
No.
Okay, we're back. We are so back.
Spoilers. Sorry,
Pre-watch.
spoilers.
How loud was that sound? Did you at least blow out their ears at the same
Top
time?
production. No notes.
Okay.
I didn't know I was playing it.
Anyways, we have two cool things to talk about, which are shout out to our sponsors today, Twitch.
Sponsors, yep, Twitch.
And Vercel. Vercel made a nice, generous donation to NeoVim in honor of NeoVimConf, so thank you for them. And we'll hear a little bit more from Twitch later today.
Yeah.
Probably not from me.
Probably from Twitch.
Probably from Twitch, yeah.
Cross System says, I would ask if you ever programmed on microcontrollers, but if you've been in the game since 1984, you programmed
Okay, so
computers when they were smaller than micros. Well, they were actually bigger than micros, but they were microcomputers. And if you look behind me, I'll just switch to the... Give me just a second.
Well, you'll have like
I'll
42
switch
minutes,
here.
45 minutes.
Oh, okay, my big head is in the way. If you look here, those are lots of custom keyboards. Everything with a microcontroller. So I did actually.
Not liking it, dude. Look at this. I have like a country mullet right now.
Yeah, it is a
This is. I could be
Actually,
a legendary
yesterday-
Nashville
dude,
star right now.
Spin around, because yesterday it was like this at the party, and guys, it's happening. Like,
Like
look
that.
at that.
That's a mullet.
That is mullet, okay?
Okay, that's not extensions. I'm not getting extensions, okay? I enforce hair growth. I actually had someone come up and put their hand through my hair and went, wow, you have really thick hair. You have hair like you're 30 years old. And I was like, I'm not.
Who did that?
Dude, I have hair
Okay, nice.
like a 30-year-old.
It was Adam.
Fortunately,
Adam's super strange.
the rest doesn't keep up.
Adam, please don't play another video. Please don't. Like, there's no need to come back at us.
Will you connect mustache to mullet?
Just keep growing.
Business in the front, party in the back.
I actually could, if I really wanted to, I could actually grow like a thin line across here. Sure, I'll do that for a day.
Yeah, that seems funny.
He doesn't look happy.
Seems like a good emote.
It seems like a good
Ramage and
email.
handlebars.
Why is Theo?
Did they
on the
force him
background?
to
That's
attend
not Theo,
this?
That's Adam.
That's ABD.
ABD.
Don't call him Adam because it'll be too confusing. We have two of them today, and we're gonna blame one for everything.
There's the
Even when it's
Adam
not
we
his
don't
fault.
like. Adam, vegan Adam.
Well,
Okay,
no,
so
we
when you
love
say
him because he's the scapegoat.
I am.
that's
I'm
not
the
how love
scapegoat.
works.
That's
That's
my
actually
role.
not how love works.
That's my role. He's psychoanalyzing your company. That's my role. That's who I
Resting
am.
Susan's face.
Are you proud of us? For the
Okay, that
responses?
made my day.
Well, the good news is that Dax and I.
Oh,
I
my
saved all the responses.
goodness.
Okay? And I'm gonna
Resting
find out
Susan
how
in
many
face. Yeah,
times
yeah,
you guys
yeah.
provided penis
10 out of
as an
10.
answer.
Because it's gonna be a lot.
Yeah,
Oh
my
my
guess is
goodness.
that it's actually infinity.
Yeah. But anyways, ads are over. Yesterday's thing will be out as a separate video later.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get it out. We want to like trim it down a little bit, take out the DMCA part. Thanks, Dax. Do some other things, right? It's yes, we did have a penis overflow yesterday. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
I don't know. I don't know why we would say that out loud.
This is 100% the face you make when someone calls you over because the printer isn't working after you fixed someone's mouse, yeah. But only after you've returned to your own desk, which is in the other building.
Please include the commercials. The
Oh, yeah, of
commercials,
course.
guys, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good were the commercials last night?
Oh.
Were the commercials worth
And
it?
which was your favorite? Scale
Yeah.
of 1 to 10. and
I
which was
need
your favorite?
to switch on the heater.
Oh, dude, ranking.
I actually think we beat Super Bowl commercials
Some of them, yeah.
because there's
TU.
the Dune, dude.
The Dune one was really
The Dune one was out of control.
funny.
The last century.
Dune's getting a lot of votes.
Yeah, Dune was good. Vicious Victory was the
Hendrix
best.
says, or you are watching someone struggle with AV as you are thinking about all the work you should be doing.
We're submitting him. We're submitting it.
Awesome.
Shut up.
Anyways,
All right, so I think that it's probably time to do a little bit of brass tacks here.
yeah, we'll do a conference now.
Okay. you
Because,
ready?
yeah, I should probably be doing something else too.
You have a conference.
But
You want a conference? We can start a conference. So,
Hey.
who's our first guest?
NeoVim is an important tool, so we need
are you
to
gonna give an
be up to
introduction
date with all the developments.
In your conference talk.
Oh man, I was talking to a certified speaker at Amazon last night, and he said that I should have one of these.
Yes.
But
We can
yeah,
glaze you right now.
Still workshopping it.
Okay.
Yeah, glaze me.
We're glazing. All right, everybody. You may not realize who this is. This is the BDFL of NeoVim right here.
Oh, wow, okay. I did
Adam,
not know.
intern, scapegoat, is very excited right now.
This is like
He just...
Wait, was that a real reaction?
he didn't know. This is like the people hanging out yesterday and like they're like saying something stupid to Kramer and then they find out that he's the CEO of Century.
And then he gets a selfie with them right afterwards.
Oh,
I
my
wonder
goodness.
if audio is
All right, well, we should let Adam...
pulled up high enough.
Adam, we should not let Adam do anything. Adam, just don't do anything for a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we'll let you take over. If you talk towards the mic, it's the best. And
We can also point it out.
yeah, we can also bring it a little
Can
bit
I
closer.
also say one thing about
Yeah.
Justin's intro since we got distracted by
I know,
Adam's
Adam.
reaction?
Sorry, it was so genuine.
Justin was one of the people who reviewed my very first PR on NeoVim and has helped me grow a lot as a software engineer. So I'm
Hendrix
very
says that
excited
wasn't
to have
pointed
him
at you, though.
with us
It's just
today.
not the feeling.
He's done a lot.
No
of
worries, you're fine.
promotion of NeoVim. So without further ado,
I think I also have something.
oh yeah, I'd love that.
Historically, out of all the NeoVim conferences that I've personally been to, which is all of them, Justin, you've had fantastic presentations. I always look forward to the State of NeoVim presentations. They're like my most favorite, so
All right.
I'm very excited. Let's do this.
Let's send it over to Justin and show his screen.
Oh, now he's powering up.
Send it over to
And
Justin.
show his screen.
Presentation
That's very
boot mode engaged.
By the way, do you want chat up? Do you want this, or do you want me to like hide it so it's not distracting? Yeah.
I am good at reviewing PRs. I've done a lot of those. Even though I hate reviewing PRs, actually, that's the thing I hate the most. But I do it almost. That's almost all that I do. Thank you all for coming. This is really cool. I'm going to present the state of the NeoVim project, like I do most years. The theme of this talk this year is "The Giants Have No Timeout."
Look at that.
And this is like a pseudo-intellectual kind of metaphor that I
Was
grabbed
just checking if
from
I had a compressor on
a
or
very
something.
large doorman in a black trench coat. He was reporting gravely into his phone with some ambiguity. I couldn't tell if it was trepidation or anticipation. He said, "The Giants have no timeouts." And I just kind of like lingered on the imagery at first, but I wasn't like looking at my phone, so then my mind wandered. And I decided that this is some sort of symbolism. Hemingway be damned. He's giving us a memo. He's telling us that we need to move fast. What will you get out of this talk? I'm going to give backstory, motivation, current status, and plans.
Image cat in kitty.
This is the usual structure of these talks, and I try to delete as much as I can, but the context changes every year, and every year I am not satisfied fully with the answers that I gave in the previous year. This picture here is our mascot, Marvim. He got some upgrades because he wants to move fast, and he knows that we can't just stay complacent, even though things are going really well for the project by, the typical measures that you might look at. This was also the 10th year of NeoVim. It lasted longer than I expected, and it's going much better than I expected. And so congratulations to all of our contributors, who are the people that motivate me in large part to continue working on the project. We have excellent people.
He still doesn't believe it, does he?
That's very energizing. As already
Yeah,
mentioned
you
on
can get
Justin
that.
Keys, here are links to my previous talks. I will post these slides as a markdown doc on GitHub later. I contribute code, but like I mentioned, I also review
We've all been there.
a FS check ton of PRs. And I also think a lot about the roadmap and the vision. I read a lot of documentation. I think documentation is the interface for humans and also AI now. And it also tends to lead to better decisions and better stories for how we think about our interfaces. So the first section is backstory. Where did we come from? Kind of thinking about like the conditions of previous talks. It's interesting to think about how things have changed in 5 years. In 2019, that was 5 years after the start of the project, and it was kind of like I was still mostly hyper focused on making the case for the, like, why did we fork Vim, and why is Vim even worth forking? And I think 5 years later, now that question is fully answered. But in 2024 now, there's a different question, which is if you put NeoVim beside other projects like VS Code and interesting projects like Zed, this is something we kind of just ignored before because we occupied the more narrow bubble of we just want to be the best Vim-like text editor, the best modal text editor, and we'll just focus on that. But we did that now, and so that's kind of boring. And so there's potentially a lot to discover if we now like change our frame of reference to stuff that's more ambitious. Even if we decide that these are directions that we don't want to go down, being more ambitious will at least inspire you to probe those directions, and you can always back out and decide against them later, but you should at least probe them. This is quite different than like maybe Emacs, from what I've read on their mailing lists over the years. And continuing this subject, the positioning of NeoVim in 2019, it was in this lineage of Vi derivatives. Ed was this really basic interface, and then VI came along and added normal mode. Vim added a scripting element and text objects, and NeoVim is an obsession with exploding in both directions of flexibility, like the ability to put NeoVim in as many contexts as possible, as like the host, as a capybara in a host, and also then from the other direction being able to extend NeoVim. But beyond that 2019 framing, now we also we have a really impressive org, excellent people, and so that's something that is a different. It's an extra feature compared to what we were thinking about 5 years ago. I also am thinking a lot about the relevance of Vim or NeoVim in the next 5 to 10 years. In 10 years, probably brain-computer interfaces will be not uncommon, and keyboards are going to be more of a fallback input method. So this is kind of interesting to think about.
I'm not going to take that bet.
Not only for Vim and NeoVim, but Zed and VS Code and other types of development tools. If we only think about keyboard interfaces, maybe that's over optimizing. Maybe that's like a local optimum. And also, if we think about non-keyboard interfaces, where does that lead us? And does it give us optionality? So one way of thinking about that is macros and compatibility, a structured interface. I'll talk about this more later, but these kind of things likely would continue to be relevant for at least the first couple generations of brain-computer interfaces, even if like the literal keys on a keyboard are no longer relevant. Also, modes. Modes is very funny because when I was building this presentation, and I was reading the Z issue tracker and the VS Code issue tracker, I realized that it's weird that they don't have modal text editing built in from their initial architecture, because this is clearly an option that will be needed for, as for example, navigating an AST and brain-computer interfaces. Let's just, even though that's kind of just like vaporware right now, but modes will obviously be a necessary primitive in a brain-computer interface. And also with brain-computer interfaces, like the buttons and menus are going to be even more outdated than keyboard-driven interfaces. I just thought of that. And the other part of Vim, which I called out as the Vim way in 2019, which I think is super powerful, super relevant for the next 10 years, is the ad hoc use case, and still also VS Code is not yet investing a lot in this use case, and maybe they never will. I mean, they have like an issue that's tracking basic macro support, so that's kind of a hint in that direction. But it's kind of funny to imagine just, I don't know, a Microsoft product manager trying to make the case that you need to support people who want to write mappings, like throwaway mappings to do something just briefly on a text document, or just kind of like building this story and then making the case and trying to get funded for it. It's actually hilarious to think about that happening at Microsoft. So that's the backstory, and now let's talk about the motivations for working on NeoVim. Why? My speaker certified friend Vikash asked me an innocent question, which is the ultimate nerd snipe for me, and that is, why do you use NeoVim? What's good about it? And it's the cop-out answer is to say, well, because I like it, and that's like what a GNU person would do, or some people often give this answer: it's weak, it's limp, it's circular. And then on the other hand, if the answers that I come up with is this: it looks like this list. Minimalism, a text UI, I'll defend text UIs later. Control, I'm a control freak, probably many of you are. I don't, for better or worse. You might also have commitment anxiety like I do. You don't want to commit too much to something a rug that could later be pulled out from under you. Optionality, flexibility, that's a big one. Ecosystem, which essentially is like a synonym for legacy and inertia, whether you realize it or not. When you find answers on Stack Overflow, that's inertia that's helping you out. When you find a plugin that does something you want, that's inertia. That's legacy that's helping you out. There's this kind of history and population and ubiquity that then turns into this kind of accidental property of the universe that's just conveniently solving your problems for you because it happens to be popular. This is basically, you can call this an ecosystem. And then, of course, personally for me, excellent people is a reason to work on the project. But Nassim Taleb, one of my an author that I like, he's fond of pointing out that if you have more than one answer for something, then you actually don't have a good answer. If you have a good reason for doing something, a really good reason, you usually just have one answer. It's just one answer. And so I'll just ask you to consider beauty as the singular answer. But then I'm going to twist it into what I think is beautiful, which is leverage. I think leverage is beautiful. And if you're a programmer, then you also think that leverage is beautiful, because most of your mind time, your mind minutes are spent thinking about how you can control a fleet of things instead of just doing one thing. When you click a button in a menu, you've done one thing. If you can automate that and never have to click the button again, then you have leverage, and you're casting spells in a way. And this is beautiful. And there's other...
That's definitely part of it for me.
There's other forms of beauty that just... that at least they're beautiful to me. And one of them is, like... When Bjorn removes the libmessage pack and replaces it with libmpack, that to me is beautiful, because it's if you're getting closer to the essence of a thing. And when Matthias and Lewis, they've been thinking for weeks or months, kind of like passively, about the best interfaces and patterns for the LSP client. And then they come up with, and they write down a narrative and a plan and a design, and it fits. It finally fits after we've been kind of having tumbleweed discussions about this for a year or two. But then when that falls into place, that's beautiful. And minimalism is also beautiful. And meanwhile, if you suspect that something is beautiful, if you just have like that tip of the tongue phenomenon, if you just kind of have a gut feeling, you can't always necessarily explain it, but you suspect that something is around the corner, then that's a motivation for what Alan Kay calls inverse vandalism, what Dijkstra says is our business, beauty. You should just do it, especially if you do think things are just around the corner and you want to see how they unfold. And I love just thinking about like all these kind of like frivolous things that I've observed over the last 2 decades. And then they turned into marvelous things. Like they started out as frivolous, and they have their deriders and their detractors, but they're also super popular. That's a key. That's the extra kind of like hint that something is that reality is kind of signaling to you that there's something there. If it's super popular, and you have a gut feeling about it, then there might be something there. And video games, video games were just these things that kind of like abused every part of the hardware to get something working. But they were popular. People wanted them. They gave their money to them. And this turned into a GPU, and then the GPUs are now, building AIs. That's such a beautiful kind of like serendipitous accident. Except it's not an accident if you consider that if you consider this framework as actually giving you information, where you follow stuff because it's interesting, you don't quite know why, but it's super popular. Then it's hard to, you might not even call it accidental, because of course this happens. When those conditions are present, then of course surprising and good things happen, and it's not an accident.
Don't get the point though.
This is the case with NeoVim, definitely. Text UIs also are seeing a resurgence. Tons of people love them. I couldn't give you an exact description of why. On the optionality topic, yeah, similar to that suspicion about things that are around the corner, we don't need to guess the future. We just need to be flexible in a high leverage way, where we're not doing everything, we're not boiling the ocean, but we are allowing the ocean to passively flow into a nuclear reactor, so then it just happens to boil, or into a volcano, yeah, maybe, and so then it boils itself. And we didn't do much, except we just kind of dug some sort of tunnel or something. And so,
Be a capybara or tardigrade, so be a cute animal, a big one or a little one, but be cute.
5 parallel kind of ongoing concerns that we maintain without like overextending ourselves, and the hosted model is a key part of this. And a great way to think about this, instead of as a parasite, when
they got a point.
It's hosted in the Chrome browser or VS Code, it's not a parasite. It's just it's a cuddly capybara that is riding a much bigger and more vicious and powerful thing in a harmless way.
Excuse me, what?
There's also a suspicion that like computer scientists sometimes try to, they've written essays on, they give us hints in the form of pithy quotes, but like when things get really big, then they tend to eventually grind to a halt. And this relatively could mean lower optionality. If you play Magic the Gathering, then you know this card is a relatively high mana cost, and it's a creature that is pretty powerful. It's big, but it doesn't have any optionality. It just can basically it's just it does only one thing. It tries to attack. Whereas this card has high optionality. It's a manageable mana cost, and depending on the situation that you're in, you can combine different parts of it.
The mana cost of NeoVim, that's beautiful.
The computer science-y concept of the expression problem is a way of thinking about this. NeoVim chooses power. Emacs also chooses power. These editors that allow you to mercilessly extend stuff, and where you can stub your own toe by doing maybe too much or overextending it, they're giving you power. But On the other hand, the counterpart to this, which is our role as maintainers of NeoVim, is to look for things that can become properties. And when you lift things into the architecture, or you lift things into patterns, then they're more like properties, and you can kind of balance between this duality. So yeah, this is what this looks like in my mind. We are the Spaceballs, gargantuan Star Destroyer, sucking things up and lifting them into our architecture with our vacuum. Our organization is a vacuum.
Colin H. analogy.
I hinted earlier that the new context of 2024 is to take kind of like sober assessment of what we do right, what we do wrong, what our advantages are compared to other projects, instead of just glibly staying in our bubble and declaring that our scope is final. It's instructive, at least as a benchmark, to think about, well, what if we expanded that scope or reshaped it? Like, could we actually do a relatively small amount of work to get to these other places? So that requires comparing ourselves to other high quality projects. And right now, the only projects that really are even on my mind are VS Code and Zed. I don't think about Helix or Eclipse or Visual Studio or IntelliJ. I think they are, for varying reasons, kind of VS Code has, the good thing about VS Code is its architecture. The things that its architects took away from Eclipse is that the plugins are isolated from the main thread, and they're very aggressive about performance monitoring and kind of making sure that the plugins can.
I mean, it's the ultimate shade you can throw, right? I don't even think about Emacs.
This is similar to remote plugins in NeoVim, but remote plugins in NeoVim are not really the main mode of plugins. VS Code also has a UI protocol. VS Code does not have a text UI. It doesn't have modes yet. It's kind of, it doesn't have a high priority on the ad hoc use case, and it doesn't really have core support for macros that allow you to do window management and all these, other things. And another weakness or maybe cost of VS Code as a project is that it just is really focused on telemetry. NeoVim is popular, even though we never hired any data science witch doctors to tell us, like, what do the users want. Actually, it turns out you can get a pretty good signal about that from the issue tracker, social media, and also your own intuition. And so that you can cut out that whole 20 to 30% business cost, and also the context switching cognitive cost of just constantly obsessing over sending megabytes of data from your users to your telemetry service, and then having a team of MBAs tell you how to interpret it, and telling you also that they still need more metrics. They don't have enough metrics. Zed is they made the choice of designing their architecture around CRDTs, which could potentially be a very good design decision, especially if they can, unlike the XI editor, if they can figure out how to layer over this in a way that doesn't require plugin authors to be constantly conscious of it, then that could be very useful. And it's kind of something that we need, at least in a crude way, to support multi-cursor in NeoVim.
That would be sweet. Multi-cursor is definitely a great feature.
Macros, I don't know how expansive or comprehensive those are, but Zed, I don't think, is targeting text UI, and it also lacks modes, I believe. And it doesn't yet support like large parts of the ad hoc use case. And it has a 20-minute build time. That's unfortunate. And then we all
Thanks, Crash Systems.
Brain-computer interfaces. So I won't mention that again. And I'll just note also that AI is kind of irrelevant when thinking about the directions that a text editor or an IDE or a developer tool needs to go with respect to the value that AI is delivering. AI is a feature. It's not a product. This is a hilarious kind of misunderstanding that the Cursor IDE is currently like they're doing good business, and they've created a good interface, but eventually that's going to be commoditized by VS Code, and eventually it'll find its way, hopefully, into NeoVim if we set things up in the way that we should, and that's our job, is to see what the gaps are, so we can help either third-party extensions give the kind of context that is needed to AI extensions, or possibly build in some primitives into our standard library if it comes to that for that. But yeah, so when thinking about the architecture, at least, and the positioning of a text editor, AI is just irrelevant. It's a feature. It's not. It doesn't require deep thinking about your projects. Goals. Yeah. It doesn't require deep thinking about your project's goals. And then a quick note about other potential branches in the timeline. But what if text editing or modal text editing is delivered as a library, which then makes it essentially a primitive that can be integrated into projects? Well, then we can consume that and see what's left. And then I haven't really thought a lot about that, but that's one way things could go. If it doesn't become a primitive, then another direction is that actually NeoVim becomes a primitive, especially if we get really stable and finally deliver a C ABI that's consumable by other projects and a WASM artifact, then NeoVim could become the primitive for modal text editing and just text editing it in general, especially.
That would be sweet, actually.
Support is getting excellent, thanks to Bjorn. Yeah, this is kind of just some blathering about. I was trying to form like a picture of what the ad hoc use case part of that story is that you need interactive commands, and any project that doesn't start out with this ends up adding it in some kind of limp form later on. You can see this in like Discord or Slack, where they have the / commands. So eventually, every project needs this eventually. VS Code has the command palette, and that works well because they really have made the fuzzy finding experience snappy, and so it doesn't feel too bad to keep just like running one command at a time. But it doesn't take arguments, and it doesn't have its own kind of language.
It might be my age, but every time he says limp, I really feel that.
That language matters for when you're sharing stuff. Like, you don't want to be describing like run this command, open the command palette, click this button. You want some sort of language. Yeah, let's go on. So, expanding on the list of why reasons that we entered this section with. Who cares about extensibility? This is a funny question because, number one, like, we're programmers, and number two, if you don't have an extensible tool, then it's more like kind of just shopping, and it's not developing. And it's very, very strange that the operating system doesn't already provide all this stuff, which is the reason that we have to do this. Like, Apple had AppleScript or whatever it was called, Automator, but that's kind of languished, and it's slow, and it doesn't serve all the use cases that we're addressing here. So this question is, or the answer is self-evident. You should be able to automate things, and that is what extensibility is. And it's the same kind of basic reason that Raspberry Pi is a thing and Linux is a thing. They're super flexible.
I do know that affable is a word, but
then found their way
to F isn't a verb, right?
Many applications. Who cares about minimalism? I think when Prime interviewed Casey Martori a while ago, he made the point that ARM is more amenable potentially to optimizations because it has a fixed length instruction set. So that's just like a classic example of how constraints, minimalism is a culture of constraints. That's basically what minimalism is. It's a choice to think about constraints and then only unconstrained things. When there's a strong case for that. Let's see. So, and also Donald Knuth, he was obsessed with typesetting. Why is this? Why was Apple and Steve Jobs obsessed with typography? Because these are primary interfaces to humans. And I'll have to think about why I have that in my minimalism side, but it's somehow related to all this stuff. And yeah, so I mentioned earlier that computer scientists have tried to express this in various ways. More software is actually a problem. So being a software skeptic is just that's in my nature, and that's the basic conceit of minimalists. More is not always better. Why a text UI? It's very easy right now to make the case for a text UI. It's because it's an instant remote desktop into any machine, even an embedded machine, any machine that has SSH, you can get a text UI to. And really...
Yeah, availability is the gateway drug.
This is TJ's terminal.shop thing. And the interesting thing about terminal.shop is that it is like, it's a new web. You don't have the web browser. And it even has e-commerce somehow. I don't know.
What is terminal.shop?
But if it is secure, then that's pretty interesting. Like, we could actually start a new web where if this became like a turnkey pattern, where you set up an SSH server, and it somehow scales, and you just log in and you get a text UI, then this is an escape hatch from the advertisements and the DRM and all this kind of crazy, and the cookie pop-ups. There's no cookie pop-ups on terminal.shop. This is very interesting, and this reminds me of the BBS days, obviously. But the interesting thing about it is that it actually works, and it's viable, and it's usable. I would like to read, social media on a text UI instead of yeah. I haven't fully thought this through, because obviously text UI could just be in NeoVim reading an API maybe instead, but then that means everyone has to be using NeoVim. Okay.
But everybody has to use NeoVim.
Text UIs are also amenable to macros. They have more structure, and things are more repeatable. And text UIs are getting really interesting now, because projects like Ghosty and Kitty are lifting primitives into the protocol. And so even though like it wouldn't make sense to have a layout engine or something like that in NeoVim, because then you're just reinventing web browsers, you're inventing the DOM, the HTML DOM. You don't want to do that, and we can't do that. But it is interesting to see like these kind of tiny changes, relatively tiny changes that can be made in terminal emulators, where they add a new function, and now you can display images, and you can recognize hyperlinks, things like that. And so this is the last slide of this section. The things that motivate me in 2019 were what I mentioned earlier, like I want more Vim, and I want to, and I think that there's an interesting, worthwhile experiment to do in like a very just seeing how much leverage we can get out of the hosted model, as opposed to the Emacs model, where they do everything themselves. Like, that's kind of the opposite of the hosted model. They're doing everything themselves. They host their code themselves. Their primary support is only for their operating system that they favor, things like that. And then also to contribute, there's friction to the contribution model there, not to mention the whole the culture itself. But in the model that I want to try is where you're only focused on delivering an open source text editor, and you just host it as this capybara on all these other kind of like fashionable things that could disappear, and then you move on to the next alligator after that. GitHub is a great alligator to ride right now. Maybe it goes away, and then we just move on. Same thing with Twitter or whatever. Like Twitter is useful right now. If it really does blow up or whatever, then we can move on, because we're a capybara. But it's doing something useful right now. So, but now the central thesis is, for me, what motivates me is just that we have excellent people, and we're on the cusp of like 5 different things that I want to see how they turn out. Okay, so the status. Let's talk about the current health of the project. You can build from source in 57 seconds. That includes downloading dependencies. Wow. And we know from Justin's law, thing that I just made up, that the definition of a text editor, or the thing that you are building, is not a text editor if it takes more than 5 minutes to build. If it takes less than 5 minutes to build, it might be a text editor. That's Justin's law.
It's an interesting metric.
And
Oops.
This is the front door to all kinds of. This is a downstream, like everything else is downstream. If you start with a slow build, then after that it's just like slowness and slowness and slowness on top of slowness. It needs to be fast. Everything needs to be fast, because that is the central part of your development cycle. If that's slow, then your developers are unhappy and they're slow, and everything cascades from that into just slowness. We have doubled the number of GitHub downloads since last year. That's some sort of signal. It could even be from bots or whatever. It doesn't matter. But guess what? We have twice as many bots as we did last year downloading from GitHub. And on Homebrew, for the first year ever, we have more downloads or installs than Vim itself. That is crazy. That's crazy. And for the 4th year in a row, we were most loved on Stack Overflow, whatever that means. We have no idea, but we're winning it every year, and so it's very important until we stop winning it. And on Reddit, yeah, like these are other signals that this is pretty much all the signal that you need. You don't need telemetry. Someone called me in one year when I gave this talk, they called me like a fake statistician or something. This is not statistics. These are just signals. And this is all you need. You don't need telemetry. You don't need to do a regression analysis or a cohort analysis to figure out that, like, directionally, like where things are going and which things are liked and which things are not liked. Yeah, so the vibe is just now, there's lots of users. And so that's why this year, for the first time, we are looking at competition, just to see what it tells us, just to discover stuff. It's not like, we're just an open source project. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to learn and develop a good text editor until someone else does it for us. It would be much easier, actually, if someone else did it for me. Our neopopes, these are the people
Neopopes.
that are doing really interesting stuff in the plugin world. And Matthias
I definitely have a few folky
is a very
plugins.
clear thinker. I like that. It's very useful and valuable. And Echanowski and Folky and the Envy Chad guy, they're showing us what's possible. They're like teasing the limits. And currently, this is the place I recommend for finding plugins, if any place. And hopefully next year, this will be driven by some sort of package format, official NeoVim package format.
Okay.
Note about funding. All donations go to development work. That's it. I love saying that. It's so simple. I don't like having little like footnotes. All donations go to development work. That's it. And what this means is that someone is focusing full time on NeoVim. It's different than like nights and weekends. We have lots of people working nights and weekends, but it's nice to have the option of just focusing for weeks or months on only NeoVim. No showers or sleep or anything else. And this year, these are some of the things it yielded. Bjorn has done very impressive work, which I think maybe he'll talk about in another talk later, if I ever end this talk. And FAMU is really delivering on the stuff that we had hoped for, the options subsystem. This is a big deal because this kind of deletes this really annoying continual question about like where do you put options for major modules such as Tree Sitter or LSP. It's really annoying that you have to invent these inner platforms for each module where it has its own little quirky options subsystem. No, we should just use the editor options for that. And maybe eventually, I don't think this is part of FAMI's work, but maybe eventually we would have plugin defined options. Because at the end of the day, like the behavior of the options is just like, it is what it is. People understand it. It's relatively well documented. So it kind of makes sense to just have maybe like some sort of namespace or something where plugins could also just hook into that. Maybe. And yeah, and then Luke is working on the messages grid. This is a big deal. And he's really noticing some like kind of tricky issues and fixing them.
That's actually a great quote. Maintenance is mostly noticed in its absence.
Engineering. And here's a brief overview of
Cries in technical debt.
in 0.9. I just want to mention again that the XRC feature, which is really cool. It's one of those like high leverage, like small changes that opens a lot of possibilities. And then in 0.10, which we shipped in May, all this stuff. Yeah. One thing I can just demo here. Look at this range Lua. This is the kind of thing that we want. I just highlight this and I type Lua and it runs it. This makes the program alive. We want the program to be alive.
That is awesome.
Feeling.
I can use that in my courses.
And like lots of improvements to the 2E capabilities, thanks to Gregory Anders. And yeah, we just have excellent people thinking about things and coming up with good solutions. This is not a waterfall of drive-by, half-baked kind of features that are just turning into a mess. that's the main thing that I care about. That indicates to me that the project is on the right track. And the stuff that's in head right now, we're playing around with. So we delivered this with concept, which it's kind of like a save and restore of just like all kinds of context. This is something. The thing that's significant about this is that this is an example of how we're just kind of like figuring out how to ship things faster without agonizing totally over the public interface. So we did that. This is like internal only right now, but it's a first step to exercising it and not having it just sit in a stale PR until we just discuss it to death. Yeah. And so like 1 or 2 years ago, we delivered the remote TUI. And now soon what will land is that you can just hit Control-Z and detach your UI from any NeoVim session. This will just happen. This is built in. You don't have to do anything at all. Control-Z, detach. And this eliminates tmux, actually, for me. I have been a long time tmux user, but if I'm not worried about
Sounds interesting.
editing session or something, then I don't really need it. And also, yeah, the other reason I don't need it is because things like Kitty and Ghost TTY are kind of aggressively expanding the capabilities of a terminal, and tmux kind of just gets in the way of that. So things that are around the corner is that we are maturing LSP config, and this means that next year, definitely, if not maybe, I don't know, some other time soon, I will just demo building NeoVim in 57 seconds and getting an LSP thing to run with like 2 lines of code on a stock vanilla Ubuntu system or whatever. Huge amounts of work in performance, really improved paste handling. This matters a lot because paste is historically a pretty painful story in Vim, in terminals in general.
Yeah, clipboards are just a
both.
challenge.
So we are really thinking about the user experience stuff, but I think that we should really hammer on that in 2025. We should hammer on the user experience stuff. But before I get to that, I'll also talk about how good we have gotten at writing things down. And this means that, you know, like, instead of just having these tumbleweed discussions that kind of like resurrect in our chat rooms every now and then, but we never like write anything down. We're doing this a lot, and like I don't know of any tumbleweed discussions that haven't been written down at this point. So we're getting good at this, and it's leading to people understanding what they need to do next.
Hi, Plog. Thanks for the follow.
Like Gregory Anders, you know, he wrote down these 2 narratives, and it resulted in some really good work. Like it completed the interface for OpenWin so that it works with all kinds of windows instead of only floating windows. And then this other narrative resulted in the maturation of these UTF index functions, which are core, need to be performant, need to support different encodings, and they are a core part of, you know, LSP handling. They're very important for that. So it was a grad.
Yep,
and
makes sense.
Someone who wasn't a previously contributor then took this up and delivered it very nicely. And also the tree sort of distribution story has been hard to like gather all the different parts of, and Christian has really been doing good work there, connecting people and pointing things out. And so when I say excellent people, this is like, this can be thought of, I present this as in next to this never-ending slop about AI taking the jobs or whatever. But like, I hope they do, but I don't think they will. And meanwhile, we have really excellent people thinking about our system, and this is something that isn't going to happen anytime soon with AI, because there is so much implicit knowledge that isn't expressed as language, and so the AI can't even learn from it, at least until it gains like a theory of mind and like many more inputs. And so some examples of this theory building results are here, like the work that Bjorn did that I mentioned earlier, performance work, Lewis doing an overhaul on the documentation generation system that is massively valuable, and it also had this serendipitous benefit of now we have like a useful LPEG based documentation parser, and also parses C doc strings and Lua doc strings. And that means that now all this corpus of code and documentation that we have is now also data. It's now also structured data, which means plugins can make use of this. And we can ship this as a core feature. And it will also help our validation and our automation. So here's an example of something NVChat did. This is really cool. This is literally just a text UI. Okay. Let's see. Risks, lingering problems. We still have no like anyone that really just is working on Windows as their primary operating system. We probably have too high of a novelty budget. We're doing too many things at once that are not like yeah, and then concept creep. Yeah, does anyone know the difference between all of these things? Text marks, buffer annotations, decorations, and highlight attributes. Where are we going? So I am. How much time do I have? There's no commercial or whatever.
Once you're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're at the end here now. So the positioning of NeoVim is these multiple parallel tracks, because this is the optionality approach. It's high leverage. It doesn't mean that we're going in different directions. It means that we have answers to many parallel sort of directions. Parallel use cases. We want to be a group of excellent people with that have theories about this system. We want to be something that is small enough that any hacker can just take the code base and pull it down, and if they want to, just change something in core, if it comes down to that. That's different than a project like VS Code, where it's kind of like, it's more focused on scaling horizontally, where it's just like, it's doing all the stuff, but it's kind of like cloud versus Hetzner. Like the cloud is really good at scaling horizontally, but at some point you kind of have to declare bankruptcy for many use cases, like DHH pointed out, where actually you don't actually need the cloud, and it's actually just 10 times or 100 times more expensive than what you need for this whole cohort of like useful things that you can do. And so I guess these are the main approaches. And yeah, so I already talked about this, but VS Code is ultimately, they need to decide what to fund. That's very different than an open source project where we only fund things if we get excellent people to work on them. That's the inverse of what you get at a corporation, where it's like, I hope we hired people that are good enough to work on this thing that we got funded to do. Quite different. They're both valid models, but they both have a place, I guess. So, and then these are things that are out of scope. We're not going to do a layout engine. Cursor is a feature, not a product. And we're probably not going to have a component library. It's good that people are doing that, but, and we will have like, we will continue to build out vim.ui for like interfaces, but not for laying out like forms, like building forms and stuff like that. That's different than just like, say, a prompt or whatever. And my proposals for next year, the things that I really, really, really want to solve next year is press enter needs to go away. Press enter is evil. It's an accident. And it's also the reason that people think other projects are more stable. When errors, when exceptions get thrown in VS Code,
It's definitely the case. Press enter after a message is so annoying.
out of facts or whatever. It just logs it. That's what we should do. We might, maybe show like a little indicator or something in the bottom right corner, but we do not need to be asking for confirmation about this. Like, if a plugin fails, then a plugin fails. Like, and yeah, and so Luke's work on this is definitely going to help with this. It may even solve it. And if his work doesn't fully solve it, then we'll find some other way to add a mode that at least stops the bleeding for now. And this doesn't necessarily mean that next year we're going to have like a full sort of message routing story. Other things that, again, are just kind of like these obvious or why didn't I think of that or whatever, like things that we should do. Some of these things are like stuff that we really should have done a while ago, but we just kind of were more focused on the super core technical aspects. But this is stuff that is relatively easy to do, that we should just do. It just makes the editor a complete answer, a complete application. Like when you drag stuff into it, it should do something useful with that.
Makes sense.
Paste images and URLs, it should do something useful. And when we open big files, we should fall back to some like fast mode. we should not just, we should do like something at least that's just dumb and effective there. And there's plugins that do stuff. We could start with that. Hopefully we'll also get to auto read. This is difficult, but Lua profiling is obviously something that we need. So hopefully we'll have a basic answer there, because then that kind of like it unlocks, it helps troubleshooting and all these other things, and it helps the extension developers. Yeah. Also, visual first operations. If we get into Google Summer of Code, then this is pretty much what I hope someone will work on, if not somebody else. But like, this is basic. We could easily do this. There's no reason that Vim doesn't have this. Except just historical accident. Like, you get the keys, you have something visually selected, and then you type some keys. Those should be semantically, those should be repeated. Those keys should be repeated. The visual, no one cares about the visual selection, the exact dimensions of the visual selection that you did. Why does it repeat that? Doesn't make any sense. And also, yeah, I have unfinished business with multi-cursors, so that's going to be my hill to die on in the next 12 months. So, you know, I might die, but or I might deliver multi-cursor.
Give me multi-cursor or death.
These other things are more aspirational, except for presentation mode. We should have presentation mode. I can't believe this isn't a thing. I propose maybe Z tab or backspace as the keys, but like we have this kind of weird, we're in this weird spot where it's like when you open a markdown file, we have to decide, do we want to do conceal? Do we want to highlight headings really nicely? Or do we just want to give people the raw view? Well, just the raw view is fine, but then there should also be an easy way to toggle on and off a presentation mode for all kinds of different formats, maybe even help docs, and I don't know what else.
That would be great. I love that. As someone who often writes or even writes slides in NeoVim, that's definitely something I can use.
It's everywhere. You need to support it, otherwise you're not paying attention. And an image API, I've demonstrated my hacky attempt at making that work. It worked okay. It's got some rough edges, but I think we can deliver a basic image API, and we need to get that started in 2025. And then also, the async story might actually start to become realistic next year, because we have at least two good proposals that are very thoughtful and fully formed. Probably everything I said is probably going to take up a lot of my time, but maybe I do think that we should get around to trying out this package format and seeing what happens with it. It's a low cost thing to try out. There's like 5% remaining to do on the spec that I just need to finish, and then we can see where that goes. And the reason that matters is because like this is kind of something that we just don't have an answer for, and when you put us against like something like VS Code or whatever, they do have an answer for it, and so it raises the question, why don't we have an answer for it? If we can do something that's low cost, we should try it. And that's related also to this built-in plugin manager thing. At the very least, this will make bug reports slightly easier, although Kickstart does a good job of that. But also, there's that last mile story where it's similar with LSP config. Like, LSP config gives people what they need to do, but even that is like, it's not a great experience, especially for people who are just getting started. And if we can improve that last mile experience without like throwing away something that is good for the normal users, then you should do it. But it's a gap that we missed because we don't identify that much with the new users. But if you can just install NeoVim, run a one-liner, and get stuff working, then that's much different than like half a page of instructions or a full page of instructions.
Yeah.
Remote plugins V2.
Barriers to entry.
This is related to the AI having an answer to AI. AI is a feature. Like I don't think it's a product, but in order to make life good and encourage more of these AI plugins, we need to have a better story for connecting to foreign interfaces like Node.js. And remote plugins v2 is the answer to that. Good Lord. I really wanted to talk about my deprecation strategy because I'll try to make it quick. Because this is important, and this is actually my main answer to the move fast topic. The giants have no timeouts. Some users don't like being bugged about deprecations. Some core devs don't get exhausted just by having to go through the deprecation phase or to get a new API out the window, because the bar is higher. If we don't have a good deprecation strategy, then the bar for just getting a new API out is higher because we're worried that deprecation is going to be painful. And then the opposite of that is that the opposite of that is also exhausting, where going through the deprecation cycle and doing it properly is exhausting. And so I just read an article from Curl, and they seem to be in a happy space. They have not changed their ABI for 18 years. And we can kind of get to this place with our Lua API. It has worked well for our RPC API, where we have not changed what I call the ABI. It's the ABI because it's like the API is more like it's something that the human is using when they autocomplete. The ABI is the thing that continues to work no matter, like it's future compatible, it's forward compatible. As long as that continues to work, then you have a stable ABI, so to speak. And I think that we can get a stable ABI at least for probably, say, like 50% of the kind of things that we want to add to the standard lib, maybe more. But so let's just look at this this matrix of like what are actually the costs. All the high costs, the top 5, are things that we can eliminate by simply moving the code that we hate. We used to love it, now we hate it. We want to deprecate it. Just move it to a nuclear waste site somewhere in the code base. Remove the docs, remove the doc strings. It doesn't have auto completion or anything like that. But the ABI is still there, which means programmatically it still works. And this is like this is very close to the best of both worlds. It's like we can almost have our cake and almost eat it too. So this is approximately what I propose for the Lua API contract, and this will be similar to the RPC API contract, which again I mentioned it worked out really well. Like when we deprecate parts of the ABI, we put them in the deprecated the API, we put them in the deprecated.c file. I never look at that thing ever again. I don't care that it's there. It adds milliseconds to the build time. The artifact size, it's mostly tiny. The docs are not there. It's not showing up in auto completion, and I never have to see anyone talking about it ever again. It's only there for ABI purposes so that existing programmatic consumers continue to work. That's a good trade-off, and it's what we need to do if we want to stay healthy and like maximally healthy. Yeah. So there's right now we have soft deprecation stage and we have a hard deprecation stage. And then in between that, there's like this, just like a timeline. But what we would add with what I'm proposing is we just have the radioactive waste stage where it's gone except the ABI still works. And these are some obvious kind of examples. Yeah, so so these are like, this is like the scopes or the layers of abstraction that are driving the project. Like in 2019, it was mostly about the green box here, technical architecture. And that's a happy little world that we lived in. But then as the project just is gaining momentum and energy and people, we can make a choice to either just continue living in the happy little world or to see how far we can go with actually channeling energy into useful directions and seeing what happens after that. And so that's where like project management comes in. And then today in 2024, now we're looking at another higher level of abstraction. We're kind of looking for signals from what is the world telling us? What is the universe telling us? Thinking about how to like brain computer interfaces, thinking about the architecture of other projects like VS Code and Zed, thinking about how we could maybe leverage Zig and things like that. Yeah, AI is, it's an extra brain, and I'm excited about AI. So when this is cool. I was writing this plugin for this slide stuff, and I put this into an AI. That's useful for like getting a function started, and that is why our documentation is important, and this is why we should think about attracting AI stuff. Last slide, mostly just because I have an audience. AI is not taking your jobs. Where are these things? You say that you're worried about taking your farming job or whatever. These things don't exist today. So where are they? Like, what AI has not given me this yet. I hope it does. We don't have a way to compile UI interactions to code. You can't round trip a UI. When you click a button, when you do something in your OS or whatever, that you can't then make that into a script. Because the operating system vendors failed at their jobs. They failed. Like, probably Smalltalk has this, I bet. So AI needs to give that to me. And then there's no like micro language that fits in a single file that's implemented in multiple languages. Why? Like you should be, this is similar to the concept that Alan Kay talks about where like when you send data, the interpreter for the data is part of like the header of the segment of the packet. It's interesting to think about. And then why is instrumentation not built into every language? Why are we using mocks? You should be testing logs instead of mocks. And finally, AI does not delete code. It only adds it, which means actually it could be worse. And this is that's the end of the talk. Here's a little picture of our branding team in Berlin. This is an advertisement that we put in the park.
Well, I definitely think this was the perfect keynote for NeoVimConf because I kept thinking, how the heck can I get out of this? Seriously, I mean, not everyone needs to be a Steve Jobs when they give a presentation, but I'm pretty sure that he didn't rehearse that in any way. That just seems like a stream of consciousness, and not sure if it's ideal to go into a conference this way. Nevertheless, it was interesting to see the perspective of the leader of the NeoVim conference. And with that, I will bail because it's already getting dark outside. It's dark outside now, and I need to get a run in before I need to prepare pizza for dinner. And then I have 2 more webinars, so I'll be in front of screen a lot today. Thanks everyone for joining me for the co-working and then the watching of the keynote. Enjoy the rest of NeoVimConf and the rest of your day. I hope to be back on Thursday at 1 p.m. UTC with another live coding stream or co-working stream, depends on what I'm going to have on my plate. And until then, take care.